Now, some of the most vulnerable victims of Israel's war on Gaza are pregnant women. And the continuing attacks are causing an increasing number of miscarriages and premature births. The UN estimates that around 50,000 women in Gaza are pregnant, and around 180 of them are reaching their due dates every day. The Palestinian Ministry of Health says it's documented hundreds of miscarriages and premature births, often in unsanitary conditions. Palestinian doctors say malnutrition is also contributing to the miscarriages, with mothers facing complications because they don't have enough to eat and are unable to reach emergency care. Let's speak to Dr. Tanya Haj-Hassan about this. She's a paediatric intensive care doctor working with MSF, Doctors Without Borders, and she's joining us from Amman. Dr. Tanya, very good to have you again on Al Jazeera. So a sharp increase in the number of miscarriages among pregnant women in Gaza, an increase in the premature births. Why is this happening? What is it like if you're a pregnant woman today in Gaza?
Yeah, thank you, Foley. So there's clear evidence that you end up with an increased rate of miscarriage, stillbirth, preterm birth, and small for gestation or small for the age of the baby. So babies born too small for their age in humanitarian settings, particularly conflict. Mothers are under an enormous amount of stress, and I can talk about that in a second, and that compromises a lot of things, including the blood supply to the baby, the mother's health, and ultimately how early the baby's delivered or whether the baby survives. So babies are often born dead or die within the womb, and the mother has a miscarriage, or they're born too early, too small. And the consequences of a baby born too early, too small are increased death after birth, so increased neonatal death, chronic illness into childhood and even into adulthood, including developmental delay. So you end up with a reduced life expectancy in a lot of cases. We know that the maternal and neonatal death rates are going to skyrocket. Unfortunately, Gaza's health ministry has been unable to compile data for infant and maternal mortality during the assault.
Right.
But aid groups all say that miscarriages and stillbirths have spiked.
Right. They're talking about hundreds of cases right now of these miscarriages, the Gaza Health Ministry. Do you think this is just the tip of the iceberg and there could be many, many more?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no data from the north, barely any from the middle areas of Gaza. And in the south, we know that the majority of women are not actually delivering in healthcare facilities. There's one remaining small hospital in the south that is providing most of the maternal care for a population of over 2 million. And like I said, 50,000 women who are expecting. I think the figure is close to 140, 150 women delivering per day.
Right.
I can talk a little bit about the journey of pregnant women in Gaza from the stories that we've heard both from MSF colleagues and other medical professionals in the Gaza Strip. Pregnant women are experiencing the same horrors of all of the civilians in the Gaza Strip. So they are fearing for their own lives. They're fearing for the lives of their children. They're being bombarded indiscriminately. And we've had stories of pregnant women who've lost multiple members of their family, including their husband, the father of their unborn child. They're displaced, right, often living in a tent with no heat, no access to clean water or food. And a malnourished pregnant mother, dehydrated mother, is a danger to her and her baby in all trimesters. And then when it comes, and a lot of them are being killed during pregnancy. We've had numerous stories of what are called postpartum cesarean sections. So cesarean sections that are done in a mother that has died.
Right.
We do them as fast as possible. It's an emergency procedure to try and extract the baby and get oxygen into that baby before they die. Most of those will be unsuccessful, and both the mother and the baby will succumb.
It's just incredible what you're describing there, Dr. Tanya. Let me just ask you a little bit more about the miscarriages, because, of course, many women around the world suffer miscarriages. But to go through it in the context of a war is just unimaginable. What does this kind of traumatic crisis have, the impact of it have on the health of women, their physical health of women in Gaza, but also on their mental well-being in particular?
Yeah. I'm at a loss for words. I get asked about specific types of trauma on specific individuals. They're experiencing every possible type of trauma, physical, psychological. Like I just received a message this morning from a colleague of mine who's a female doctor in Gaza. And we were just joking around. She's unmarried, and she said, I'm thanking God right now that I don't have children. Being a mother in Gaza right now is beyond imagination, having to worry about yourself, about the health of your baby. And I think, I would agree with that. Another colleague of ours, a nurse, early on had sent a message saying that essentially, my hope is that if I get killed, my hope is that I get killed with my children altogether. So let me read you the exact message, so I really convey the horror of that this mother was experiencing. Yeah. She said, "My hope is to die with all my children and not leave them, and them not leave me. I cannot live without them, and I do not want to die and leave them here in this unjust world." This is a nurse colleague. And I think that's the sentiment that a lot of mothers are carrying. About 2 mothers are being killed every hour. That's approximately 48 mothers per day. Mm-hmm. There are 20,000 babies that have been born. I mean, about 180 babies born today, born into a life where they have no access, consistent access to breast milk because the mothers are dehydrated and malnourished. There's no formula. There's a shortage of diapers. Colleagues in Gaza have reached out, when I ask them what do they need most, just so we can try and coordinate aid. And they say, we need formula. We need formula for the babies. The babies are malnourished. We need diapers. We don't have diapers.
It's really unimaginable what these children and women are going through right now in Gaza. Dr. Tanya, as always, very good to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing these experiences with us. Dr. Tanya Haj-Hassan. Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. I just want to add one last thing. We as humanitarian professionals are asked to come on and describe this suffering over and over because people are calling this a humanitarian crisis. A humanitarian crisis implies a humanitarian solution. There is no safe humanitarian space right now in Gaza. There's also no humanitarian solution for something that's so catastrophic. Right. The only solution is a ceasefire and then an immense amount of humanitarian aid to relieve all the suffering that I and so many others continue to describe to you on this show. Thank you for giving us the space to do that. I just want to ask everybody, please amplify your voices, put pressure. Our colleagues in Gaza are exhausted. We cannot afford to be exhausted too. The world needs to understand to stop now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tanya. Thank you for joining us on Al Jazeera. Tanya Haj-Hassan, a paediatric intensive care doctor, joining us here from Amman.
Thanks, Chloe.